Okay, let's quickly go over the major feedback that I have from grading your formatting for your writing assignment number 2. Overall, it was pretty good. The paper to be formatted I gave you was a mess by design, so I know it was just a nightmare to kind of look at. You'll find that as people upload papers to Instars and to other journals, sometimes they just don't bother to read the instructions. They're expecting you to do the work or the editors to do the work, and that's just a pain in the butt. I understand. So that paper I gave you was really a mix of all of the major problems we see on a regular basis. So you'd be used to seeing them and be used to fixing it. Now, a few people in class this time around missed some things over and over again. So this feedback is going to be on those things that were missed on a regular basis. First and foremost, I found that a few people used these number references instead of proper Instars format. Remember that we have our own format. I like how it looks, and I think it's most useful when you do the last name and year for each one of the references. So if you lost points on this, that's because you want to do this in Instars format. This number format is what you use in other journals, not ours. Second, there were a few people who left references in the abstract. So if you go up here, you can see that the references were still in the abstract. The abstract does not have any references, none whatsoever. It does have data, but no references. Keep that in mind. Also with figures like this need to be 2 columns wide. Really what you're trying to go for is making this as readable as possible. So when a figure is this tiny, it is really hard to read the labels and all that sort of stuff. Notice how the table is 2 columns wide. That is perfect. Do the exact same thing with the figures. Make them 2 columns wide simply so you can read them. You just want to keep in mind with editing especially, it's all for readability. You, again, don't want to lose the reader as they're trying to squint at stuff and try to read it or things like that. So all of those editing guidelines are there to make sure that it's as simple and pretty and easy to read as possible. Now, one minor thing, the title and authors and editor, that all needs to go on the first page. So you don't have a separate title page for those. Instead, you incorporate it just above the abstract. Now, this is something that is a consequence of having these left-right justified columns. See right here where this one area is super spread out, same here. It's a really strange spacing. That is something that the computer does to make sure that this line is left-right justified, and usually comes when you have a big long word like this or not much in that line. So what you can do is, if this really bothers you, it personally isn't that big a deal. You're not going to lose points or anything for it, but I know some people get really bothered by it, and some other editors in other places, they really just hate it. So you'll find somebody who this is like a pet peeve for them. So if it becomes a pet peeve either for you or for somebody else, what you can do is simply highlight just this one part and just make that line left justified. And that should clear that up. Or you could also add words or add extra stuff or reword your sentence so it doesn't have those lines. So it either looks like this or it doesn't have the lines. So there's a way to deal with it, but you're not going to lose points or anything if you have it in your paper. I know it's just a consequence of how left-right justifying works. You also want to make sure that you're inserting the authors and the editor here. You as the editor, this will be part of your job. So some authors will upload a paper for review that doesn't have the authors on it at all. You will get this at the end of the semester, and your job is to go find out who those authors are, what order they need to be in, and put them there, and then put yourself as the editor because you have that. Also, I want the title to be single spaced. So you see here it's double spaced. Make sure that's just single spaced so it's a little nicer looking in that area. And again, left, right, justify everything. Remember, it needs to be equal on both sides. And this is the incorrect references again. So make sure you get rid of that. And there's references in the abstract. You don't need references in the abstract at all. Keep that in mind. Also, some people are coming from journal articles where they're asking that the table and the figures be put at the end of the paper. This is a method that is used by some journals to make it a little easier to embed those tables, or to make it easier to print. Since we're not in print, we don't have to do any of that. So for Instars, we want these tables and these figures embedded in the body of the paragraph or the body of the paper where they most make sense. And that is usually right where they were first mentioned. So if you go through the results section, you will usually see something like see table 1 or see figure 1 or something of that nature. That is saying go look at table 1, like right here. And really, you don't need to put the C, you just put table, open parentheses, table 1. And so right after this, I would put table 1 and have it span 2 columns, and then find where figure 1 is and put it right there. Okay? That just makes it a lot easier for the reader. Again, we're always thinking about making things easy for the reader so they don't have to page back and forth. And there are some requirements that are simply a holdover from the print version of things. In addition to the single space in the title, you want to make sure that the references are also single space. So all this extra space right here needs to go away. That'll just tighten up the references a little bit more. Otherwise, that's pretty much it. You guys did a pretty great job for the mess that this paper was to begin with. You will find you see these same mistakes over and over again on the papers that you review. So what I want you to do for this week in your reviews, I want you to really focus in on the formatting. You've just gone through and tried to format a paper yourself. You've just gotten all my feedback. Read your feedback, see your grades, all that sort of stuff. And make sure that you can read everything. I have the rubrics now attached to your assignment, so you see exactly what I was giving you points for, or what you were earning points for. So really focus in on the formatting of each one of these papers in addition to all the other stuff that you're reviewing. All right. Great job, everybody. Let me know if you have any questions.